What's up guys, Mizzo Frizzo here, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you about World Partition and data layers. World Partition has basically supplanted levels and sub-levels as Unreal Engine's way of streaming your environment to optimize your game. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to convert a level from the old system to World Partition, and I'm also going to be showing you how to stream data layers at runtime, which has changed a little bit in 5.2, I believe it was, and onwards. It's a little bit trickier than it used to be, but I'll show you how to do that. And just as an example here, I have this free asset pack from the Epic Games Marketplace. It's a free factory environment asset pack, and if I just press F8 to eject here and move up, you'll see I've got the level right here, and if I move back you can see a little bit of it streaming in and out with the World Partition. I basically made the load range big enough to load the whole area. But if I go back to my character here and I press L, you'll see some stuff has popped in there. I press F8 to eject again, and what you'll see here is I've got a whole copy of the entire level over here, and it's on its own data layer, so I can load it in and out by pressing L on my character. And what you'll see if I go back to my character here, I unload that data layer, is I've got a certain number of frames per second that I'm able to generate at the moment. So you can see it's if I just go over here and face the wall, you see I'm pushing about 140 frames per second here, and if I load in the other data layer, you'll see a marked drop as it loads in, and then it's dropped down to about 122 frames per second. So again, I'll unload that data layer, and it's pushing now 136, 137 frames per second, and when every single frame per second counts in optimizing your game, obviously you wouldn't want to have an environment as complex as this, loaded in just over there where we can't even see it or run through it at the moment. So yeah, this is where optimizing your game really comes into play. So without further ado guys, let's jump into World Partition and data layers. Alrighty guys, let's start by just converting a level to World Partition. So I've got this free asset pack from the Epic Games Marketplace, a free factory environment, and a couple of telltale signs that this is using levels and sub-levels is one, down here in the bottom right corner of the viewport, you can see current context, demonstration level, persistent. So this persistent is basically the base level for your level with sub-levels within it. If I go up here to window and open the levels window, you'll see right here persistent level, and then I've got this sub-level tech art, which is the sparks and a few other things. If this had World Partition enabled, this would say that levels is disabled because World Partition is enabled. And if I go to the World Partition tab, you can see World Partition is disabled for this map. So if I want to convert this to World Partition, sometimes I might get an error saying that you need to resave the map. And that can be a little bit, not a little bit misleading. You could change something in the map and then save it again. You'll still get this strange error. So I haven't figured out a way of actually resaving just the map, because there's no options here, for example, that say resave. But one thing I've found that works and that removes the potential for any of these errors so that your conversion works first time is just to right click on your content folder and go resave all. So that's the first thing we're going to do. This might take a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to cut to when this is complete. So I'm going to hit resave all. And now that that's done, I've got some warnings there. Just going to dismiss all of those. Now that that's done, let's convert this to world partition. So we're not going to need these levels, this levels tab. I am just going to go to tools and convert level. I'm going to find the level I want to convert, which for me is in maps and demonstration. Open this up, and this basically is just saying, do you want to replace the original map? So yes, I'm just going to replace it, and I'm going to leave everything else as default and hit OK. This may also take a minute, so I will just cut here to when it's finished. And that is done. Now, you might find that parts of your map haven't loaded. Don't panic. What we need is this World Partition tab or window, and if you don't have this already, what you can do is go to Windows and where is it? World Settings, World Partition Editor. And while you're here, you may as well open the Data Layers Outliner window as well. I've just got that one docked up here, Data Layers, and I docked my World Partition window down here. And what you want to do is just select the whole area and right click and load region from selection. That's going to load up everything like so. Nice. And now if we go to our world settings window right here, and again, if you don't have world settings, you can find that in window and world settings right here. You should have this. And down here in world partition setup and runtime settings, you'll find this grids right here. And you can drop this down and drop down this index, and you'll find the main settings for your world partition streaming right here. If we check preview grids, what it will do is show a preview of your sort of cell size and your loading range. So right here, we can change the cell size if you wanted to make this more sort of specific and load up small bits at a time. You can change the cell size there. And you can also change the loading range right here. So I'm going to jack this right up so it's just loading the whole level, because it's not a huge level, even though it has a lot of detail. It's not a huge level. You could basically see from sort of one end of it to the other. This is just a level that I'm using as an example. So preview grids can be a little bit distracting, so I'm just going to switch that off. And nice. Now we have world partition enabled on our level. Let's jump into data layers. So we opened our data layers window right here, and you'll see we've got our level here, demonstration. And if I right click here, I can create a new data layer or create a new private data layer. And you'll see if we highlight create new private data layer, it says an editor only data layer that cannot be used by other worlds. So this is handy if you don't want to load everything up when you open up the editor. You don't want to load everything up right away, or maybe there's certain things you don't want to load at all. So, you might create a data layer like this, a private data layer, and then you could grab, say, for example, all of these things that are kind of like background. This is just for example. Let's have a look at what that's called, background pipe. So what if I search for background here and find everything with background in the name and select it all, and then go to my data layers here and right click and add selected actors to selected data layers. All of these background items are now in that data layer. I can hide it like so, and then you can see all of my background is hidden like so. So maybe when you start up the editor, you don't want everything to load, just so that your editor starts up more quickly. This is an option that you have. And let's just find, what's this called? Grow smoke. I'd call that a background effect as well. So let's just select all of these grow smokes right here and add selected actors to selected data layers. And they will disappear because this data layer is hidden, like so. Um, this is loaded as well, so you can also just unload it. So they're not even loaded right now, so you won't be able to make them visible. You can just click to load it and click the little eye icon to make it visible. And you can also see there when I double clicked on it, which was an accident by the way, it makes it the current data layer. So I believe that means that when you place an object, it will be in that data layer. So let's just place a cube right here. Place a cube. Scale it up so it's a bit easier to see. Yep. So that's how you would work within a data layer. If you wanted to, if you were creating this level from scratch and you're adding a bunch of stuff in, you wouldn't want to then have to select everything and move it to the data layer. You can just double click on that data layer and it will make it your current data layer, like so. Nice. There is a problem here I'd like to point out in 5.2 and onwards, and it is that if I right click up here and just create a new data layer, it will say unknown right here. And it's because there's no asset assigned to this data layer, so it simply just won't work, and it won't work at runtime either, which is pretty annoying. So you can assign an asset to that data layer, but I think it's easier if you just right click and create one, the data layer asset, and it is in miscellaneous and data layer right here. So I'm just going to leave this called new data layer asset, and then I'm going to open it up, and right here I'm going to change the data layer type to runtime and save and close that, and then drag that into, whoop, I've crashed the editor. Let's just restart the editor. That has not happened to me before, but I have heard reports of data layers crashing from time to time. So let's just load everything up again. And you can see my private data layer is gone as well. That didn't save. Nice. Thanks, Unreal. That's all right. We don't need that private data layer. I was just showing you that, you know, how it works. So I have got my data layer asset here. I can drag that up here, and now it's in my data layers tab right here under the level. So it is now a part of the level, and this is a runtime. Yep, it's still saved as runtime. Just double checking that. So now we can stream data layers in and out at runtime. You'll see here in the data layer details right here, we've got the data layer asset right here. Let's see if we can create a new data layer and assign it data layer asset. Boom, assigned like so. Okay, yeah, so that works. You can assign a data layer asset right here. That's all you need to do to get that to work. You'll see here there's editor options, is initially visible and is initially loaded, and that is what we were talking about with putting stuff in a data layer so your editor fires up more quickly. So you could have it unloaded and invisible when you load up. That is just an editor option. But then here we also have the runtime option, initial runtime state. You've got unloaded, loaded, and activated. Unloaded is self-explanatory. It's not loaded at all. Loaded is it's loaded in, but it's not visible. And activated basically means loaded and visible. So both of these are checked as true, basically, in activated. So let's go ahead and add some stuff into a data layer. Let's take this office right here. You know, this is we can see this from out here, but this is just an example of basically a sub-level. So let's say you wanted this office here to be on a sub-level. I'm going to go into the outliner here and search for office. And these windows are the windows right here, so I'm not going to select those. I'm just going to select everything here in the office that basically isn't a window. So there, I'm going to select all of that there. And you'll see some of it is indeed not in the office, it's in these locker rooms down here. It doesn't matter too much. This is just a demonstration of how this works. So I've selected all of these actors right here, and then I'm going to go to my data layers tab, and I'm going to right click on this data layer and add selected actors to selected data layers. Now you'll see if I check this visibility icon, it is hiding everything in that data layer. And let's say you did have a level that you've already made like this, very complex level with lots of actors within it, and you did want to not just hide this stuff, but you wanted to hide and unload sort of everything in here. So you can see I've hidden that and there's some stuff remaining, but let's say you wanted to, you wanted to also add this stuff to the data layer so it's hidden. I could select all of that like so, and I'm not going to select absolutely everything, but let's say I've selected this stuff. I can right click, add selected actors to selected data layers, and you'll know that it's been added to that data layer because it is now hidden. So you could go through and, keep on adding stuff to the data layers like so. What I mean is that if you can see it still, it is obviously not in that data layer. So if you wanted to continue finding stuff to add to the data layer, you can do it that way. Okay, now let's have a look at loading and unloading this stuff at runtime. So we've just got this one data layer. It's the stuff in the office right there. I'm going to leave it as initially visible and initially loaded. I'm going to change the initial runtime state to activated so that if we hit play, that data layer is indeed loaded. I'm just going to find my character, which I believe is in blueprints and pawn. It's this old UE4 mannequin, and go to the event graph. And I'm just going to find the L key like so. And what I'm going to find now is the data layer subsystem. Data layer subsystem can be accessed from anywhere. So this is how you'll access your data layers. And then off of this, if I just search for data layer again, you'll see a few more data layer options. And I'm going to set data layer runtime state like so. I am going to just grab a flip-flop. Going to duplicate this one, plug this in here, and plug B into the second node, and we changed it to loaded. So we're going to make the first one unloaded and the second one activated, like so. And in data layer here, we can just promote to a variable. I'm just going to leave it called in data layer, and I'm going to plug it into both of these. And if I compile, I can now set the default value of that data layer, and I'm going to set it to new data layer asset, like so. In is recursive. We're not going to mess with that right now. If you want to learn more about that, I suggest you check out the Unreal documentation. I suggest checking out the Unreal documentation on any function that you'd like to learn more about. There's a lot of information there, very exhaustive. Maybe not as exhaustive as some people would hope, but there is a lot of information there. Alrighty, so now when we press L, it's going to execute A and unload that data layer. And if we press it again, it's going to activate it. So I'm going to hit play now. And I'm not going to bother bringing up my frames per second because this is actually not going to make a huge impact on performance because this is a relatively small amount of data that we're actually hiding here. That is why in the demonstration I loaded up a whole another copy of this entire environment so that you can see the difference. But if I press L here, you'll see that data layer is unloading and loading. And you can add anything to these data layers. You can even add stuff like lights. So I could grab these lights right here and go to my data layers and add selected actors to selected data layers. And now if I hit play, just going to jump up here to the same spot so we can see up in there. If I hit L, it is unloading. You can see those lights as well now. Nice. And if you wanted to do this to optimize your level, you probably wouldn't just have it as an input for your character. You would have a basically a box collision that when you overlap it, it would load those levels. So let's have a look at that now. What I'm going to do is just delete this door so that we can get through here. And I'm going to add my box collision right here that's going to load that level. So all I want to do is create a new blueprint, an actor. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to add a box collision. Got caps lock on there, sorry about that. Grab this box and I'm just going to scale it up a bit, make it nice and narrow, and I'm going to move it up so that the root is down at the bottom like that. And I'm just going to drag this out to see the size. That'll do. That fits uncannily well into that door. I might just make it a little bit taller so that we can't sneak over the top. Very nice. And I'm just going to go to my character here and I am going to copy this like so, Control C, go into my blueprint. I'm going to right click here and add an event on component begin overlap. I'm going to paste in these nodes. Whoops, I've just hit Control C again. Control X, that's fine. Paste this stuff in here, and if I hit compile, I'll probably get an error about this. Nope, didn't get an error about that variable. Strange. In data layer, I'm just going to create that variable again, and new data layer asset. Plug this in. So I'm going to activate it when I overlap. And I am going to change the initial runtime state to unloaded, like so. And I'm just going to right click here, go play from here. I'm going to delete that. Play from here. And now when I overlap this box right here, I've loaded in this data layer like so. And you could make it so that, let's just have a look at this blueprint. I'm going to make 2 boxes. So I am going to duplicate this box, and box 1 I'm going to move just a little bit over like that. And just so that we can see which one is which, let's also add an arrow component. And this first arrow component I'm going to put on this one, scale it up a bit, and I'm going to also duplicate it. And the other one I'm going to rotate around 180 degrees, put it over on the other box like so, and I'm going to make this one blue. And this is going to be the one that loads in the level, and this one is going to be the one that unloads the level or data layer. So I'm also going to add this event on overlap of the other one. I can copy this, plug in the data layer and the subsystem, and make this one unloaded. So when I overlap with this box, it's going to activate that data layer. When I overlap with this one, it's going to unload it completely. And that is the way around that I would like it to be, because when I walk in, I want to load it. And then if I walk back out, I'm going to unload it. You could make this slightly more performant by having this blueprint contained within a certain data layer, so that, for example, when this office is unloaded, the blueprint is unloaded and it wouldn't trigger. That's up to you to, fiddle around with that for optimization, but I'm just going to have this one blueprint, and it's not contained within the data layer, it's just contained within the level. But yeah, that should work now. So if I right click here and go play from here, now when I walk in, this data layer is activating, and when I walk out, it is unloading, like so. Nice. Guys, that's pretty much all we set out to do, so that's it. If this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.